Okay, so this is the target 939179884. Today's date, and I wrote out the target after it was complete, just so for record keeping purposes, what cures or mitigations will be best for SARS-CoV-2. So right off the bat, we kind of have a couple of videograms which may be relevant or pertinent, seemingly so. These sort of jagged graph-like lines. And then we just go straight into some imagery that came through, and this was a container of fluid. It says dark, dank container like pond water. It wasn't necessarily pond water, it was just kind of a semi-opaque, or not really opaque, but kind of brackish water or something like that in a container. Next is a nano cluster. I'm sorry, a granular cluster rather. I'm trying to read it from the camera. And there we have, let's see, wind chimes is one thing that I was really not sure about. Probably out of the whole thing, more or less. Granular cluster, though, is kind of interesting. When we look at the greater picture here, that's probably relevant. We had an AOL just because, of course, coronavirus is in everybody's mind, so there's going to be a little bit of that. Respiratory epidemic, and actually I can't even read this word. Well, come back to that one. Not too important. Then we have this set of jagged lines, which looks like sort of a graph. To me, it was like pulse, bump, 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 bump. A pattern similar to a pulse or scope, oscilloscope. I really wasn't sure, but it did kind of seem like a sort of a pattern on a screen or display or something like that. Still abstract at that point to some degree. We just have this random tubule drawing. Still not entirely sure what that is, but, and then we have a grill-like drawing here. I won't try to figure out exactly what that is, but that could have to do with, combined with the container of water and this. That's kind of how remote viewing starts out, a little disparate. You've got parts of the whole that sometimes come out in pieces. So this was metallic, grill-like. Could very well have to do with combined with the water. It could be sort of electric. We've got this electricity related. Could be a current running through those. Just keep in mind. Okay, ideogram more or less the same again. Light. I don't know what that means. Something. That was just kind of an immediate thing that came out, so I put it down there. It could have some relevancy. Orgone. I think that is kind of, memory serves, sort of gold related. Don't know a whole bunch about that, but that is relevant. Velocity, I think, is relevant to some degree. And then you have these disk clusters, and that one was a little hard to figure out. I've saw superimposed discs over each other, about the size it could fit in your hand, possibly plastic or metal or magnetic, or it's almost like medical grade, or honestly don't know, other than it was disc clusters, to be honest. And then we had a hand here holding like a tube and something coming out. This is just a phrase that came to mind, release the bees, because you kind of have this stuff floating out. I wasn't, at this point, I was, starting to think of the virus. So I've just put a question mark, it's like, that could have been related. Just left it at that, went on. Dicyclamine is a drug. I forget exactly what it is, but I don't think that was what I was trying to think of, or was trying to come through, rather. We had this kind of cyto, but I meant to say cyclodextrin. Guess it's the main ingredient in Febreze, and I remember reading about, when I was looking at disinfectants and stuff, this was actually something that could be treated. It could have some efficacy with the coronavirus. Don't know if that's true, but a study or two happened to say that. So I guess it's relevant to the target. Hand soap, washing your hands, that's obviously something that would be related to mitigations with this COVID-19 disease. Key cluster. Key cluster, biogenics, intimacy. So, related to biogenics is, well, I may have to go back to that word. Words sometimes come out that you kind of know but don't really know the meaning, but then they have relevancy, so that's kind of an interesting thing usually, that sort of lets you know you're on the right trail. Got a saying that came out. I had the feeling of wanting to draw a thought bubble or a word bubble, someone speaking, hey, we have evidence it works. Okay. Kind of have this puzzle piece that looks like a germ almost, possibly virus, spiral glade. So this to me, I had the feeling to draw it out. I didn't write anything, but to me it was virus, basically, like coronavirus. Information. You've got a sort of branching tree of, I'm guessing like virus strain, branch tracking, qualitative assessments. I don't know, maybe that has to do with the different strains that could be running about in different areas. Kind of have this stuff that looks like it's riding on the wind, particles in the air, particulates. It's not, to me, it didn't really seem like a sneeze. It was more like a larger picture, something sending through an area, more or less. A seasonal cluster. Okay, so coronavirus cluster, I guess. Moving on, we've got a fire here, and we've got smoke, but it's like these incendiary aspects or burnt stuff, like, something the fire is burning off. Okay. And then we have virus, so that's virus related. Moving on, there we have, this the mechanism of infection. Then over here we have break the mechanism. So this is, we're moving into what might interrupt the mechanism of the virus. So that's pretty plain. Repeater, virus, chameleon. Okay, so repeater is probably the method of RNA replication. I don't know, I'm not a microbiologist, but that seems to be the relevancy. We're talking about a virus, we're talking about a chameleon-like aspect because people can have the disease, they don't know it, and they're spreading it. Okay, then we have something that wants to be drawn out here, so I go with the flow. As I sort of draw this roundish oblong shape, I get the feeling of a balloon sac. Okay, so I just write it out. That's the aesthetic impression. Sorbet, who the hell knows on that? Who really knows? Sometimes you have something that doesn't make sense, or maybe in some loose fashion it does and you don't realize it. Gravitate, so we have the feeling of something gravitating to the virus, to be honest. Gravitating to and accentuating. Detergent is, you know, obviously cleaning aspect of infection, and billions of viruses, I guess, I would presume. Okay. Let's see, we've got fragment the virus. That was the feeling. So you have a suspension here. This is sort of symbolic or a metaphor. That's what I was drawing out, and it's basically like a metal cable with a suspension tie or what have you to a surface analogous to a virus. And we have release the cable. We've got this sort of action here, pop, division. That's kind of a metaphor for intervening into the activity of the virus. Delicate. So we're dealing with delicate microbes, if you will, you know, something that can be interrupted, I guess. Flonase, used for allergies, I suppose. I think I heard that was used in some cases, maybe just to treat the symptoms of coronavirus. We, excuse me. We've got basically the coronavirus is depicted here. Okay, that's what that is essentially now. It's becoming evident what the target is, but I'm still proceeding and just trying to keep up a good pace without thinking it out and allowing what needs to come through. And these particles around it seem to be important as some sort of intervening aspect. Mirror ions. Actually not sure what mirror ions means. I will have to think about that one. Sounds promising or interesting. But ions, yes. Looks relevant. Anions. I guess that's a negative charged particle. And we have device. Device comes out, doesn't seem relevant, but then when you look at the whole, yes it is, actually. This here says cell membranes. and you kind of come closer here, and it's like stacked cells, like a epithelial layer, or you know, layer of an internal organ or membrane inside the body, which presumably viruses would affect or attach to. Transcription order. Okay, that has to do with the replication part of viruses. Rearrange. So we're talking about interrupting the viral activity of the coronavirus. Bilateral. Not even sure what that means. I mean, I have a guess. It's the activity is somehow bilateral. It's in the reading, the decoding, and independent. Independent is, I think, an independent interrupter, separate from the role of virus and host. Okay, it's like a third party, if that makes sense. It does to me, and it did at the time. Now we have film. This is a kind of curled layer, and I really wasn't sure if it was a layer of a virus, like an outer membrane, or something else. Because at later stages, I did sort of temporarily see or saw an image of like a gold sheet of gold, then sheet of like gold foil or something. But this seems more related to a virus. So roll back, peel away. I guess you're talking about trying to affect the outer layer of the virus, perhaps. Seal up and enclose. I don't know, this seems like a cocoon. That's sort of what I drew. That was the feeling. And okay, so that's what it is. Immune response in the body, all related. Gel tab, something you could take, I guess. Carbon molecules. Well, I'm not sure on what level other than carbon-based molecules, but transfix. Okay. Order and rearrange. That's more of what we're talking about there. Transfixing to the virus transfixing to the body, changing the order of how it replicates, I guess. You have a picture of this is this pen's messing up. This right here is the object. That's what we're looking at, and then you have this stuff which seems like a result of interruption, activity, physical structure, something like that. And then we have kill the RNA. Okay, so we're definitely talking about shutting down that RNA aspect of the virus. Bloodbath, soak. I think it's that feeling was kind of related to taking something. It's it is, what am I trying to say? You're taking something that's introduced to the bloodstream, which is acting on the virus. Soaking, so you're taking a certain amount that's overwhelming, perhaps. Corkscrew, that's like a aspect of the virus, RNA or something. Frenetic, displace. Frenetic activity, movement, excitability, energy. displace. So you're taking that and you're displacing it or breaking the activity. Similar to boiling, but obviously not boiling inside the body. Okay, all makes sense. It's all coming together. Vibration. Okay, that's part of that excitability in anneal, which is kind of an electrical metal aspect where you're changing the surface of a metal or something like that. Void, you're voiding the properties of the virus, is the impression. Viral sphere, okay, that's the outer part of the virus. The virus is round, there's an outer shell of this virus apparently, probably like most, I guess. Anneal the virus sphere, changing the aspect of the outer part of the sphere, which could be breaking apart the membrane, peeling it back, changing the properties, the spikes, something like that. You're tantalizing. At a subtle level, perhaps you are, yeah, see, this is sort of breaking it up, altering it. What is the mode? American Trust, I don't know, it just came through, so, you know, I guess trusting in the ability that as Americans we could maybe come up with a solution. Vital, it's vital to the economy, yes, but people for sure. Epithelial, so that's cell membranes inside the body, layers of tissue. Send in the rovers. Okay, so it's almost like we're talking about nanoparticles here, nanotechnology. Obviously not sending in robots, but we've got these tiny particles, and impression here was like these guys are sort of marching along to do their job like little bitty troops. Transfixase, I've got to look up that one. I'm pretty sure that is actually a technical term related to what we're talking about here. Interrogate, interrupt, basically, you know. Balloons, okay, these are these guys. And I suppose they may have like a encapsulating aspect, which could help move the virus out or deactivate it. And these are going along again. Gel shield, it's like a gel-like protectorate, shielding the virus. Activity or something going on here. Spirons or spirions. I looked it up, and spiron, I guess, is like a drug, like an antipsychotic or something like that. But spiron or spirions, maybe that means something. Who knows? Let's see. Let's move along. And then we have like this little bitty tiny point. Focusing in here on this tiny point, tink. It's the evermost faintest little point of activity. You're just a faint, tiny action right here at this point. And it says a micro, small, little shock or attenuation. And apparently this little pulse or electrical activity or what have you, that's enough to render something inert. So this is the second to last page. What was done here? Affinity. So it's going to have an affinity. Remember, this is the best cure or mitigation for this virus. And so theoretically it's going to have an affinity for the virus, going to go toward it. It's going to gravitate to it, like it said earlier. It's going to be attracted. It's going to find it or work on it. It's going to go to its location. A certain metallic-like dust ground up into fine powder, similar to lithium powder. Okay. This is the delivery and attenuation mechanism. So, yeah, just a metal that is ground up very finely, and then that is going to be delivered into the body somehow, apparently. We've got causeway. This is sort of, I guess, the path of disease. And here we have apparently a virus, coronavirus with spikes, presumably, and you've got our little bitty worker bees or microbe guys or particles, rather. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. This is kind of killing the virus. We have electrical activity with lightning bolts. So there is some kind of electrical activity, and we had that in the little fine sort of attenuation or change or little bitty subtle action on the previous page. Charged ions, which are disruptors and captors. More of what we're talking about, disrupting the activity of the virus, and captors of the virus, rendering it inert and sending it on its way out of the body, hopefully. Biliary related or similar to as well, somehow. Okay, so not sure how that's related, but it could be. It could be. Delivery process, pathways, some sort of similarities. Now, importantly, we have could be platinum or other rare metal. A rare or precious metal. Gold and platinum seem to stand out, and I really had no idea that there was such a thing as platinum nanoparticles. Gold, I think I've kind of, somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew there was a gold, colloidal gold, or just orgone gold or something like that. Completely forgot about it. Altered silver, question mark, but not just colloidal. Colloidal silver is great, but it's not something that's going to kill out all the virus. So, on the last page, we have activate, antagonize, lipid change, veracity. Changing the veracity, changing the properties, interrupting, all that good stuff. Coil, I think, here again we see like the prominence of the virus and the, I guess, sort of RNA or replication part of it. It came to me as black and just solid and hard, almost like a coil of thin plastic, hairline plastic or something like that. Inoculate. Now, if this is correct, we have enough of this wipes it out clean. Emphatically, enough of this wipes it out clean, so that sounds promising. Worth investigating. How is it made and or activated? Okay. Charcoal? Question mark? Don't know. Activated charcoal, just came to my mind and I put it out there. Made very fine particles at the nano level, obviously. Okay. Then we have spun. Perhaps that's to put it in a suspension or something like that. Shiny metallic inside glass container. So at this point I have the impression of a source of metal, precious metal, in a glass container, possibly in water, seemingly golden color. And then we have electric current applied. Okay, then we have a battery which kind of goes toward this anodizing like process. It is electricity applied perhaps to this water in a sort of electrolysis mode. Maybe that's only part of it, but it seems like it's part of the process that is going to give the nanoparticles energy, which is then traded off to the virus and disrupting the activity of the virus. This is all what's coming through, and hopefully in some ways relevant or helpful. Doesn't mean it's entirely correct. It's kind of a shot in the dark, but worthwhile of exploring for sure. There is an important curve here involved here. That's what this is. So apparently it's something like T time and charge or current or whatever. Whatever the case is, it's time versus charge, it seems. So the whole process is sort of time dependent and on the amount of charge, and if you go past this wall, then it becomes somehow the whole action is rendered less effective or something like that, or there's too much surge, or we're dealing with nanoparticles, so perhaps it disrupts the positive aspects of the mechanism. And we finally, I believe that's the last, we have blanket process. To me, this kind of felt like a uniform, more or less, uniform process. So you're taking this whole sort of this whole quantity together and introducing it into the body, and with enough of it, it's going to seemingly act on the virus to clean it out of the system, wipe it out, and I guess act as a cure, hopefully, or a really apparently efficacious or successful modality or treatment. So that's all I've got. Gonna have some more though. Interesting target that I did recently is what are black holes, and that was kind of a strange one. So I'll be uploading that one soon. Thanks for checking me out, and have a good one. Thanks.